New Jack City's duality. Time glints and glimmers protecting me. Bruised and used and dripping in a tragedy. Castrated with fuel and pain constantly used. It slows the sludge under the street. Electric fuse. New Jack City.
Q&I, my futon, fold it up and smoke it. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for. Transgression, a progression of a war we ain't asked for.
It's madness, yo. All the things that we could talk about.
Call it.
But let's talk about these urban circumstances real quick.
And basically it's
we got this.
So
Revolutionary.
Frosty hand. Muhammad is the fame's name, forever stand.
Standing on royal fusing of justice for the few, ridiculed by the pale terrorists bent on genocidal obsession, rooted in fear of neglection and abandonment, fueled by nightmares of ancestors' jealousy.
because at the end of the day, I still want to be able to I don't dislike George Washington.
The kind of friends I think all friends should be like my friends. My friends are the kind of friends I think everyone needs. My friends see the things at times I don't see. My friends hate the police.
What has changed?
Are deemed the criminals, and the blacks are deemed the criminals.
Shut up and help.
Reflection ain't nothing but the inner child trying to see you. You gonna look? You gonna pick up that book?
Lord, keep me far from the faith. Guide me through night and day. Teach me your ways. Show me the righteous way to sway. Lord, can you teach me, please? Show me the way, I'd say. Murder, murder. Hey, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up, what up? Good morning, grand risings, grand risings, grand risings. This morning, you know, there's been a lot going on in Minnesota. There's been a lot going on in our nation, right? And I think it's finally time that we draw the line, right? And we draw the line between good and evil, right and wrong. So before we get into today, because I'm going to talk about a lot, you know, especially when it comes to Minnesota, when it comes to accountability, when it comes to nonprofits. So I'm going to bring up Senator Bobby Champion. We're going to talk about Senator Nicole Mitchell, Lisa Clemons, Al Flowers. We're going to talk about it all. And I also got a guest today, Robert Johnson, goes on Twitter as Crazy Corpseman Wasps. And we've had him on before. We've collaborated plenty of times on plenty of work, from Marvin Haynes to Mayan Burrell, plenty of things. So before we get into that, I just want to get into, like I said, we drawn the lines, man. And I wanted to kick it off. So let me get into this. My bad, y'all. Let me add this.
You in doses. Who know about this
And I'm
stuff?
gonna start it over.
3,
My
2,
bad.
1.
Tank filmed it.
Hip hop, let me holler at y'all for a second. Conversation long overdue. All I hear y'all talking about is your money in large amounts. Must think accountability is your ability to count. It's not. That's why this culture lukewarm, intoxicated with ignorance. Let me spit the truth on. I said that glorifying murder in our music is bad. Now people coming at me saying, stop speaking up. We like to hear that. If that's your preference, that's cool. But when you get on the defense, then let me know. My spirit irritating your demons. I'm supposed to back down because of some internet hatred. I've been defeating Goliath. Baby, my first name David. All year round we feed people death and destruction. You heard me? But it's okay, cause on Thanksgiving we... Never mind. People threaten to hurt me. People say I'm clout chasing. They want the evil unopposed. That sound like Satan. But I'm responding with love, maturing as I go through this. It ain't just about how I love Jesus. It's about how well I love Judas. They can't silence my voice. I'm gonna be vocal forever. These people hating on you, D. They gonna be local forever. I got the industry shook. That guilt can't pile up. I drew a line in the sand and it messed they amp pile up. I ain't here to blame it or shame it, but it's all about how you frame it. Now evil has an excuse, and it's called entertainment. You got a 3-part ecosystem. The labels are one, but without creators and consumers, labels can't run. So what the fans support is what the artists gonna make. Gotta deprogram and reprogram what we consume and create. I got so much more to say, but I let God lead the way. Trust I'ma serve you in doses. Who know about to start coaching you? 3, 2, 1. It's 3 to 1. Some industry, some fans, and some artists against me, but I don't run. I got the Father, the Holy Spirit, and the Son. Class officially in session, y'all. This about to be fun. Oh man, this about to be fun. This is just the syllabus, bro. It's just the beginning. We got a lot to cover. We got a whole lot we gonna cover. Like how to be in this world, but not of this world. How to be real, righteous, and relevant. Bump this world. How to turn over tables in a temple when it's time, without ever letting anger into your heart and mind. Yeah. How to stand for God when everybody else saying it's hard. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was D1, man. Like I said, you know, we need to bring real music back. And before I get into that, I just want to go into, I ain't been on live in a while. There's a lot going on. You know, I seen this morning that Melina Abdullah had made a post talking about, you know, Drake and Kendrick. It's fine and dandy what they're doing with their little rap beef, you know, making records, getting people to pay attention, I guess, you know, whatever. But the thing for me is, she's like, they're not talking about Palestine. And we don't want them to talk about Palestine. That's not what they're there for, right? And I want people to remember that Malcolm told us back in the 60s that we need to stop having these so-called celebrities, these so-called gatekeepers speaking for us, and we're not getting nothing in return. We're not getting anything. You know, in the white community, you know, I made a post earlier. In the white community, you definitely don't see, you know, them asking their entertainers to come out and do different things and come out, make political statements and do this and do that. But yet all the time we ask our black community to do that. I remember in 2020 with what's his face, Lil Baby, Meek Mill, you know, they made songs that uplifted the black community. And where is that energy now? I don't see that energy in 2020 about police brutality, about the corruption, about the shit that's going on in our streets. I don't see that. So, but before I add Robert, I want to play just a quick little video and basically just leading up to what we are going to be talking about. And I got two actually videos with Bobby Champion, but first I'm going to play this one first. And then I'm going to bring Robert on. So I want people, this is Bobby Champion. This is last night at the Senate
has
ethics hearing.
acknowledged that Senator Mitchell has done something wrong in relieving her of her committee assignments and removing her from caucus meetings. My question to Senator Mitchell, has any of the Democratic caucus asked you to resign?
That's far outside of the bounds, Senator Housley. Two things. For the first reason that you're asking whether you're intimating that the caucus says she did something wrong. The caucus has always said that she has a right to due process, and I think that's where you have to make that turn. And this is an ethical hearing. This is not about whether the caucus says she did something wrong or didn't do anything wrong. The caucus sincerely believes that she has a right to due process and that the process will play itself out. And whatever that process yields, then a decision should be made once there's that clarity. Senator Housley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. She is entitled to due process, but we also are entitled to our Senate Ethics Committee, which we've talked about over and over, and it's a whole separate set of rules. And my question is to Senator Mitchell, has anybody from the Democrat caucus asked her to resign?
Again, Senator Housley, that is beyond the bounds. That has nothing to do with it. If the Democratic caucus told her to stay, that wouldn't prove anything. If they told her to go, it wouldn't prove anything. There are a set of facts that one should look at, and what is attached here is the underlying criminal complaint.
So, Mr. Chair,
Senator Housley.
So again, that's Bobby Champion. We all know him in Minneapolis. He's been around for a very long time. So I'm going to bring Robert on. Thank you for joining me this morning, Robert. I know this is something that we're talking about this morning. We've talked about, numerous times. This isn't something that is new, like, Senator Mitchell's situation. But I wanted to bring you on this morning to talk about, not number one, just ethics, but honestly, since they want to talk about ethics, I wanted to talk about, a different number of different things when it came to ethics, when it comes to Senator Bobby Champion, when it came to Reverend Jerry Mcafee, former officer and founder of A Mother's Love Initiative, Lisa Clemons, also Camo J, host and community activist, L. Flowers Sr., because it leaves a trail, but that trail goes all the way from Minneapolis, South Minneapolis, and a lot of names, you know what I'm saying? And it's not just the state capitol. We have people that are linked to the governor's mansion, to the attorney general's office. So it's all the way around. And the fact that you have former employees from the Department of Human Services, I don't know if you've seen that Twitter page that is on, they put it out there. And it's for me, is like, I see what the Republicans are trying to do, but it's like, for me, I don't feel like it's enough. I feel like it's a lot of smoke screens because, I see congressional hearings all the time when it comes to, Congress, women and men, and certain things when it comes to TikToks, when it comes to a wide variety of things. So why can't we do that in the state of Minnesota, is to get these people under oath and put the paperwork, because everybody says, oh, that's not true. That's not true. That's not the story. But then nobody ever wants to talk about the story. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, how do we, and I know there's a lot we're going to get into today in a short amount of time. But I want people to pay attention because, Robert, you did a video that I presented to the Republicans at the state capitol a couple months ago. In that video, there was Walter Hudson that I presented to, and Pam Altendorf, who is a representative from Red Wing and Goodhue County, and as well as Walter Hudson, who is from District 30A, I believe. So this has been seen numerous times, the things that we've talked about. There's been mainstream media articles. They haven't, so I wouldn't say used our information, but we've gone deeper in depth than what the mainstream media has. So I'm going to be quiet for a minute and let you speak. And like I said, thank you for joining me this morning. I'm blessed to have you. So
you're welcome. If it gets too windy, let me know. I have the headphones on because it helps me be able to hear better. I'm a little bit hard of hearing. But I am outside, so if it gets too windy, let me know. It all depends on where you want to start. Just realize, I mean, you're talking about corruption in Minnesota, you got to go back quite a ways and realize, like, the mob ran the state, especially during, like, from its founding, basically, until, AAM stuff got cleared up, at a minimum. And, like, they just choose who's going to be in power. I'm not saying that in a bad way, but if you look at, like, who even wrote the charter for Minneapolis, Manuel Cohen, who was he a part of? Go down the list. Okay, the Kosher Nostra was huge up here. And it never went away. I wish they did, but they didn't. So the stuff as far as the ethics stuff, so Bobby Champion was a part of CSI Minneapolis, and the money got given to Al Flowers through CSI. Their fiscal agent was Clarence Hightower in his church, which is New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. It never registered. Okay, that was back then. They did a congressional ethics hearing on them. Minnesota GOP wasn't smart enough to go to the Secretary of State's website to look it up. And sure enough, they never registered it. The entity didn't exist anywhere. So it's a non-existent entity. They could definitely bring that back up and more investigation into that. But it just is a cycle. So what they did is early 2000s, they even in the Star Trib, they said, hey, these are the community leaders from North Minneapolis. And this is who we're going to have. If you look up at the Belay Society, right, the top 10, all that jazz, yeah, it's all part of that. Okay. And so they're chosen to lead the community. But these people have been on both sides of the cop stuff, on everything else since Jerry Hoff. And that was a setup. I'm sorry. Hey, I'm going to offend people. If people don't get that, I offend people. I don't care if it's the truth. I'm going to say it. Okay. The Jerry Hoff thing was a setup, and it was to push through the 94 crime bill. Literally before that, they were working with the gangs to try to figure stuff out. Sharif Willis, 2 months before the Hoff shooting, was in Congress giving testimony saying the CIA needs to stop running the drugs and the guns in. This was before Gary Webb's stuff came out, right? So, right. I mean, it's a fact. We've gone over the Princeton, Minnesota stuff, right? And then you had the Sabes family who was doing the native gaming. According to Lyndon LaRouche's stuff from the EIR on LaRouchePub.com, you can just go look it up. The native gaming was all ran by the mob. Who was doing that? The Sabes family, according to Thomas Petters and the congressional records and whatever else when they were getting looked into for being part of the Gambino crime family. So, I mean.
No, I'm looking for when Sharif spoke to.
Yeah, it was like August of '92, man.
Yeah, because it was on C-SPAN, and Senator Paul Wellstone was a part of that.
Yep. If you look up Sharif Willis congressional testimony 1992, it should pop up, man. It is. If you go to C-SPAN and just look up Sharif Willis, it should pop up. If not, I can get it when I get back upstairs here in a minute.
Oh no, I know I can get it. Let me see. So
Sharif. So a baseline of what we found is that all these nonprofits, right? They get money from grants, and they also get money from the community. They don't necessarily use them as intended. And then that money just keeps on getting circulated, and there's only certain people that get it, so it doesn't get out to everybody. It doesn't actually affect what it's supposed to in the community. And it's the same sort of thing with the landlords, too. Okay, the low-income landlords get grants and whatever else to buy these places, especially like Aeon, Dominion. Okay, they let them run down. and get dilapidated to a point where somebody else comes in and it's preserving low-income housing. But what they do during that time, sometimes, like I know Aeon's doing it, is they're upgrading those houses, and they only have to keep it low income for 7 years. And then after that, once they've upgraded it to, market rate, then they can charge a market rate. And that's a whole thing that's been going on since Harvin Marv, who was part of the Kosher Nostra Saves Family stuff too. Okay, and Harvin Marv got the twins up here by leveraging the low-income housing in St. Louis Park. So that's quite literally, and they've been big bankrupt with that too. It's just a big Ponzi scheme thing that they do,
Right. And that's the crazy part. I'm trying to get when he spoke.
And I know you've brought up Lugar too. Lugar's a part of this. So he hired on a BLM activist, Redmond, right? Right before he got hired on with Jones Day through the city. And the way they worked that is they did it pro bono, right, to get around the city's contracting laws. But that pro bono was only for the first mill. After that, they could charge full rate. And then some of these lawyers are charging $800 an hour, and they weren't even licensed in this state. So they're just doing whatever the heck they want, not licensing stuff. I mean, as far as lawyers have to register like a plumber would, right, to do work. And so then they made money off of that. Now Jones Day actually sits on a lot of the judicial selection stuff for Minnesota. Okay, so they're actually choosing who the judges are going to be, and that gets interesting
now, I don't
too.
know
But
if you'll be able to see the screen, but I have pulled up. I have pulled up Leslie's information, that the little profile that we have.
Yeah, at the bottom of the page where it has like her recommendations in that, the bottom right one is Lugar. Go up a little bit. Yep, the bottom right one there is Lugar.
Let's see Leslie's background. Oh yeah, Andy Lugar.
Yep. So he hired her on before they got hired on by the city, and yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and then he also sat on Minnesota Heals 2.0, and according to Hennepin County, it was privileged meeting starting in January that he was there. So how is he having a privileged meeting with Jones? Is he representing Jones Day? Or is he acting as U.S. attorney? They said they couldn't answer that because he was acting as U.S. attorney then 2 months prior to his appointment. And who is he sitting on boards with? Mcafee? If you can find the Minnesota Heals 2.0 stuff, you can pull it up if you want. But he was sitting on with all these guys that got the millions of dollars who helped him with Operation Endeavor. Well, Operation Endeavor, they also had, is it Lipinski on there? Who's their main guy, right? Well, Lipinski is a great douchebag who in 2012 got nailed in federal court for lying about video evidence, including threatening to leave somebody on the ground bleeding if they weren't going to talk to him and trying to coerce the CI. So, I mean, not very trustworthy. That's your main guy that you have for these 45 indictments. I mean, he's just incompetent, straight up incompetent, and all he is the Jewish mob thing with, the Saves Kosher mob, whatever, with Frey, Ellison. They funneled money to Klobuchar, Clinton. He's bundled for them. He switched Ellison from Nation of Islam to the J Street PAC. So to be pro-Israel, after a strip with Lugar to Israel. So it is what it is.
Minnesota Heals 2.0.
Yeah, if you go to the bottom and who signed it, yeah, those names all right there, they're the guys that got the money.
You know what really tripped me out, though, was when I looked at this, because Steve Kramer, Downtown District,
that's another mob racket.
Mcafee, it's all people that literally say, even Jackie Cherry Holmes, Mark Osler, Justin Bell, it's Bishop Harding Smith. These are all people that say they are trying to end gun violence, make change in our communities. But at the end of the day, it's just a money grab. a big ass money grab at that, and it always has been a big ass money grab. I want to play this video real quick. It's the video that you did, and then we will talk after that again because I want people to get an understanding and a basis. And if you want me to stop it, just let me know.
You're good. I'm gonna shut off my cam for a second then.
All right, you're good. All right, so we're gonna play this. And I just want people to listen and learn, right? If you have any questions, please, you can either message it or put it as a comment and we will talk about it.
Businesses don't have to register. They only enforce things on who they want to. There's tons of nonprofits and businesses that are not registered in the state. DBAs, you can go down the list. Churches registering as a DBA, whatever. Licensing, what I'm saying by the licensing not required is that's for construction, for professional services like mental health. You can go down the list. So unless somebody actually looks into it, they're not going to do anything. And half the time, they're not going to do anything anyway. I know with the mental health stuff, they did actually do something with Salem Inc. stuff. But there's a whole bunch of stuff like that that's going on, especially with the taxes and whatever else, right? And also for the housing. So the people working on housing aren't required to have licenses because the city won't even check it. They'll just sign off on it, right? And then the background checks for working with youth. I have a data request in for the city of Minneapolis Public Schools. They still haven't gotten back to me on anything with the background checks for New Salem's Educational Youth Initiative. Okay. DOL and federal housing guidelines not followed. Inspectors sign off anyway. For the Section 8 stuff, they just pencil whip it. The same thing for the city's individual rental housing laws. And I have a video where me and Chaz actually called out to one of this, and there's a smaller city. And they basically said as much, that they will allow us to fudge a whole bunch of stuff in order to be able to get people in there until we were able to get it up to code. No, it needs to be up to code. Okay, the Secretary of State, again, they're not registered or doing business as a different name. You have landlords, rental agencies, churches, nonprofits. The churches, nonprofits also run under a duplicate LLC. Mother's Love also has an LLC. Salem Inc. also has an LLC. That type of thing. Safe Streets is just a straight LLC. It's not a nonprofit. Yet they're getting bills directly apportioned to them, right? So direct grants and loans to LLC orgs affiliated with Bill Author. Bobby Joe Champion is some of these people's actual lawyer. He has represented Flowers before. He has represented Mcafee before, and a couple other ones. So, like, if you're doing up bills directly for, you know what I mean, and he's really involved with KMLJ and all that. Previously with CSI, that gets interesting. Please look up CSI. Bobby Joe Champion had an ethics investigation into him over CSI. The Republicans did not check to see whether or not this was done, because he didn't. Okay, he did not register with the Secretary of State. So his fiscal agent wasn't a part of that. For Clarence Hightower, that was a fiscal agent through all that debacle, right? And that was New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. Now they have True Vine, whatever. I have it on the other one, other slideshow, the exact name, and I can get that for you in a second here. Okay. The Bill's author staff works at nonprofit. They got the money. As Turning Point, one of them, they had a big thing about it. Well, it's not that she was working for them, but she was working for them during the time that they got the money portioned directly to them. Bill Author works with community orgs that push votes for them. They do grants for votes. Lack of oversight. LLC, nonprofit, same name. Yep, and then no reporting and oversight requirements. Undue influence. The community org selected is not an open bidding process. They're based on previous involvement with Minnesota Heals 2.0 prior to the 2022 elections. Community orgs, they also contract with the Downtown Improvement District. I have a whole paper that I've written on that, which I can get you guys. I wrote it for my ethics class about the undue influence and the legal problems and constitutional problems with how it runs, right? So it's not just my opinion. No, there's actual legal arguments behind it, right? In the Downtown Improvement District has an undue influence over the justice system. They have their own judge, prosecutor, etc. They also are able to tax, right? They levy taxes. They get the city to bite off on that, and the city's beholden to them. It's the reason why they have such a focus on Downtown Improvement District. Money's ever used for operations not in the community awarded for. They're not using the money as much in North Minneapolis and stuff like that for actually doing services. They'll do a small little bit there, and then they'll go do these other things where they're getting paid twice because they're actually getting paid on top of their grant money. And known criminal affiliations. One of them being Chasms Dixon was their billing for New Salem, right? Now here's her stuff for where she did the fraud. And here's her involvement with 21 Days of Peace and New Salem. Okay. So Marlon Ace Boogie Moore, another fraudster. He also ended up getting rid of evidence. He destroyed evidence in that. And you can go down the list. Here's the legislative update on that, right? And here he is signing for a contract with Minneapolis Schools as the CEO of Salem Inc. And here's their contract. Okay. The actual provider for the education services with that, the individual they have on that, isn't listed as an employee on the 990s. So that gets interesting. Okay. And open up another one here. Let me see if I can get this pull up. There we go. Okay, the Jones Day contract. So here's the thing: is Luger actually got a activist hired on to respond to some of the stuff and put pressure on the city. That was Leslie Raymond. Redmond. Yeah, Leslie Redmond. Here we go. And down at the bottom in the recommendations right here. Okay. They got together and they got Leslie Redmond, right, to be the community leader. Well, then they also went and they contracted with the.
There's a question being asked: is who was the pastor at True Vine back then? Can you answer that, Robert?
True Vine wasn't registered till later. I will share on my screen
Yeah.
registration. Give me 1 second.
Okay. That wasn't, see, True Vine. See, my understanding, let me be quiet because I know Robert know more about True Vine than me, but isn't that Elle Flowers and Lisa's mom?
That was Greater Mount Nebo that was theirs.
That's Greater Mountain. Okay. That isn't Ian Bethel, is it?
That was Hightower. I'm not sure who's there now. 1 second here. The True Vine wasn't registered till later, much later. Okay, it was filed in 2021, so it wasn't active at the time. Okay. Oh, they switched up their
She was the
website here. Give me 1 second here.
No, you're good. She was the NAAC president. Yeah, Leslie was. Yes, Leslie was the NAAC president. But here's a whole thing that people don't understand. There's a whole connection between her and Nakima. That's what people fail to realize. And who was the NAAC president before Leslie? It was Nakima. These people are selected, not elected. And I'm telling you right now, and the same thing with where was she a professor at? St. Thomas? Where did Leslie go to college at? St. Thomas.
Here you go. So since 2021, and then he moved on. But so that's who you have as True Vine, New Bethel. And I actually have on my Twitter page, I'm going to go back 1 second here. Okay, this is the post I did this morning to Walter about this one back here. This one was from this past fall, in September. We gave him the list of bills to look out for and the organizations that were going to be funneling the money, right? And then down here, we actually have like all this stuff listed out. Okay, I'm going to go to my profile and just search New Bethel. Or Bethel.
And the crazy, I want people to know this is all public information. You just got to understand and to know where to go to get it, because that's why we have the Freedom of Information Act. You know, and that's the one thing, because I've learned a lot from people like Michelle Gross, who taught me about data requests. You know, I had Kent Logan teach me about the Freedom of Information Act. So when I was doing data requests and I would get certain things back that they would try to use as statutes to redact information, and I would call them out on it, because stop using certain statutes when they don't qualify, because people don't understand the wording and the verbiage, we won't fight because we don't understand it. You know,
I guess there's an ad block on that. I have the original downloaded, but right here's a copy of the screenshot. Okay. So it said who their fiscal agent right here with New Bethel.
If you tell me what to look up on Dropbox, if it's in our Dropbox, I literally have the Dropbox up. I would just have to be
I think it's CSI in there. It's either that or under the documents that were supporting that. But I have a screenshot up right now on Twitter if you want to share that.
Yep, I can do that. On your Twitter, okay.
I have it pulled up. Am I not sharing my screen on that?
Nope, it went down.
Oh, let me see if I can share it again. Here we go.
All right.
And I'll see if I can zoom in on this. It's right here. New Bethel is who's in charge of their services. That was their fiscal agent. Okay. If you go back over to here, so I put in True Vine for this one. If you just put in New Bethel without the True Vine, that's the only thing that comes up. So New Bethel is not active, right? So then you go to inactive. Okay. And for the inactive, there's nothing, which means they never register. Okay. It's that simple to figure it out. And Greater Mount Nebo was, that was Flowers, family's one.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's no longer active, but it was just a doing business as. So like there's two different ways to register a business, right? You have your legal entity, which is either like your LLC, C Corp, S Corp, that type of thing. It's your actual legal entity. When you're running under an assumed name, that's like if I called myself Crazy Corpsman or the Wasp Society, like on Facebook, if I was using that as a legal name, that would be an assumed name, or also known as, right, an alias. So an assumed name is an alias. So this is an alias. Greater Mount Nebo was an alias for these people right here. I mean, that's who the alias was. It's not a nonprofit. It was just them. So they got all the money from the church. Go ahead.
No, I was, because Rev commented that the Democrats have bought the black church, and yeah, that's been, the black church has been long gone, and that's what people felt. That's why I had such an issue with some of the black pastors and churches over north. And it's crazy that we're even talking about this, is because my brother Marcus, made a post a couple days ago, and he said, or 14 hours ago, I've said it before and I'll say it again, the churches in North Minneapolis is only good for burying niggas, right? And Jerry Mcafee said, bullshit. Well, I call Jerry bullshit, right? Because at the end of the day, Shiloh Temple and Mcafee's church, that's all they do is bury niggas. Some of the biggest funerals in Minneapolis, where have they been at? George Floyd's funeral, where was it at? Shiloh Temple. When Frey comes in and talks to the black community, where does he go? Shiloh Temple. Or he goes to West Salem. Dante Wright's funeral, Shiloh. We literally have some of the most political funerals, right, of our people that died, and we're supposed to get change and reform when we don't see none of that. We don't see none of that. And yet I hear people talking about, oh, the Democrats gonna do this, the Democrats gonna do that. How? Because why aren't they doing the same thing to this Miss Mitchell lady the same way they did John Thompson? But don't nobody want to speak about that. That's crazy as hell to me. It's beyond ridiculous of the shit that we stand up for, right? Because at the end of the day, I literally, and I really wanted to, and we're still going to talk about Bobby, all weird chump ass too, because he said some shit yesterday that really pissed me off, for the simple fact of, you never said those things for Marvin Haynes, but yet you'll go up there and speak for a white woman. And that's what, we don't have the same energy for certain things, but yet we have all the energy in the world for other things. And I want people to remember this. I want people to remember this, because these people are selected, not elected. Because how many, you know what's crazy is, I see all this talk, all this violence right now going on in Minneapolis, right? And starting June 1st, not what's today, the 7th, the 8th, 23 days, on June 1st, we're going to start Operation Hug the Block. Do you think anybody's talking about that? We have more people talking about it outside of Minnesota than we do inside of Minnesota. And that's sick to me. All because of the simple fact of we're not a nonprofit. All because they don't like the way that me and Marcus speak. Or they don't like our backgrounds. Or they don't like the way that we talk. What does that have to do with anything? We're about our community. We're about bettering our community.
That's a big thing right there. Is like if you have the gumption to try to better your community, you got you. You know what I mean? If you just want to sit around and talk, that's something else. But like we can each do something to better our own community and take responsibility. And that's where a big thing comes in is in today's society, we push responsibility off. It's always somebody else's whatever. No, we can do it, you know, and we can take it back. And the white church is just as bought with the GOP Zionist talking points. Okay. Like it's nowhere near what it needs to be. Both sides have been infiltrated. Go back to when it got infiltrated. And a lot of it was the FBI, COINTELPRO, also the communist movement that got in bed. I mean, WED, but Du Bois, card-carrying members of the Communist Party. I'm not saying that they were 100% off with what they were thinking, but when you have other people filtrating stuff in there, and they do it to both sides. I mean, B'nai B'rith and you know, Albert Pike, Benjamin P. Judah, they started KKK and the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry stuff, and you go down the list with that. So they play both sides. You know what I mean? The commies have been doing that for a long time. I'm not saying that it's one side or the other. It's just like we can be like, hey, there's a better way. We can figure it out and stop doing this crap. You know what I mean? But yeah, he is not wrong. If you look at where it actually started, me and you have talked about this. When the gang started moving out of Chicago in the 50s. Right. Now, see, I have to pause right there. You realize that the mob, through Operation Underworld, got carte blanche to run heroin in the United States, and they focused first on the Harlem Jazz Club. Right. Okay. So then it got moved over to Chicago. They took over the social movements that were about being responsible and taking care of your community and turned it into gangland, literally. You know, they infiltrated. And then as they moved away from there, me and you have talked about this, there's different organizations, some of them churches and stuff set up, Milwaukee, Minnesota, where they were using those as a shell, just like the Catholic Church does, right? How can you never get the priests? Because they have immunity, right? And then the people that talk to them have immunity and that type of thing. With the church stuff, right? Your rabbi or whatever, your pastor or priest can't like go narking on you, right? That's how they run it, because then they can organize through those things. Now, if that's actually ran as a criminal organization, now you have carte blanche to do what you want. Plus, it's a nonprofit, you know, and that's and that's exactly some of the stuff that's happened. You know, and it's happened in, it's not necessarily the same format, but in a different way in the other churches too. I mean, like there's some churches, like if you don't go to that church, they're not gonna like hire you on as a subcontractor or whatever else. Like it's the same type of shit. It's just in a different format.
No, and right. So let me finish out this video, and then we're gonna come back to talking, because I want to get into more about ethics and, you know, with Bobby, and especially with everything that we were talking about yesterday on Twitter. And I want to get into a little bit of not so much Mitchell, but really the hypocrisy right now that is going on in St. Paul. So
in the top 3, minimum did not register. I have all the information there. Okay. And the contract stuff. And then you have these community guys who got in with that. Now, see, in 2022, Luger at Minnesota Heals 2.0 and met with many of these people. Okay, so these people were already selected ahead of time, and now they're getting the money. Okay, here's the different nonprofits. You can go look those up. Minnesota Safe Streets is a big one. Greater Mount Nebo. This was Flower's mom's church. And you can see right here that what I was saying on that, it's just a DBA as Al, his mom, and Joe Spratt. And here's the CSI stuff, right? New Bethel. Missionary Baptist Church doesn't exist. They made a True Vine, and they did that up later afterwards, much later. Here's the appropriations, right? New Youth Redevelopment. Chasma was a part of that. We have the documents on that. These guys get selected to become community leaders, and it gets interesting. So that's that. Hopefully it helps. If you guys need anything else, please let me know. And sorry about the delay in between the two. And I was trying to find the Leslie Ray.
So, get into a little bit more, literally of everything you just seen, because it is important. And I think it's important that people understand, that everything that is done in the dark always comes to light. Now, since we've talked about this, how do we solve this? How do we end the conflict of interest? How do we get rid of the corruption, the fraudulent behavior, and actually make sure that our communities are being taken care of the way that they're supposed to? Because we're literally seeing I'll say billions of dollars being fraudulently wasted. Fraudulently. That is all supposed to be in the name of accountability, of transparency, of truth. And we don't see any of that. So I'm gonna let Robert go on, and I'm gonna look for something else real quick that I wanted to show y'all on Twitter.
Oh, it's real easy. Give me 1 second, and I will share my screen. I just have to pull up the old ethics investigation from Bobby Joe. I have that link on my Twitter. I just have to pull it up real quick. But what we can do is really easy. These people have already had investigations into them. Okay, like Chasms Dixon, Ace Boogeyman, Marlo Moore, or however you say it. They both have had previous run-ins with the feds for fraud. They're a part of this. If you go back to the HNS taxes is probably where the bulk of the information can come from. But Bobby Joe Champion has a previous ethics investigation, and they can easily pull that back up and say, hey, that fiscal agent wasn't registered. We're going to look into it a little bit more, and go from there. But so far they haven't. We set it up for them. We gave them all this information last fall. I've been trying to, on Twitter at least. He met with them this spring. This is information that can easily be brought up and just say, hey, look into it. I'm going to try to get this information over to the legislative auditor. They want it. I was just busy with college trying to finish up. It was just a lot of stupid papers this time around. It wasn't like in-depth stuff, but it's just being a senior, that's the way it goes. 1 second here. I'm going to share the screen. This is under Walter's post, okay, from last night, the Utter Clown Show post.
Yeah.
Under there, when
Oh, whoops.
is it showing?
Yep,
Okay.
I got it. Yeah.
So under Walter's post there, I said, "Do the champion one, bring it back again," and I posted it. Okay. Literally, this is the ethics investigation next to the little meme of duh. But right up here is a link. Okay, you can go to that link. Okay, and that link brings you here, and you can go to the doc. And it literally brings up the document of the ethics complaint, so you can go read it on yourself by yourself. You don't have to take my word for it. Okay, and that it was a community standards initiative funded by Alpha Flowers that is a fiscal benefit for Champion, and that his fiscal agent was New Bethel Missionary Baptist Church, right? But they never checked to see whether or not that it was a legitimate entity. And Minnesota's terrible at that. They'll just if you are in good with them, they will let you run a business without registering and just do whatever you want. In my lawsuit against my former landlord, I registered their DBA, and the judge, even though I owned their company or they're doing business as, the judge still cited in their favor. So that's how corrupt Minnesota is. Okay. But yeah, the stuff's out there, man. And so it's just bringing it up, okay, forcing it into the media, forcing it into the people's attention, getting it out on the streets. If people actually see this stuff, how easy would it be for the Libertarian Party to run a campaign on this? How easy would it be for any third party to run a campaign on this? The GOP obviously doesn't care. We've given them everything that they need. I mean, if you the community is literally begging, hey, somebody needs to look into this. Somebody needs to help us fix this. We're just being ran as a racket. And the community is saying that you might want to listen, man. And they're just asking for help. So any politician that actually gives a crap and goes there and helps people figure this out and expose this can probably get frickin' elected, man. This is the way the entire city of Minneapolis has ran from its founding.
No, and that's the crazy, and not even crazy, because it sickens me, because to see people that go up and right now I'm talking about the Robin Walmsleys, I'm talking about the Jason Chavez's, I'm talking about the Vitas, Ellison, Felipe Cunninghams, the Lisa Baileys, the Palmasanos, the Andrea Jenkins. These people don't care. Maybe at one point they did, but now it's not about the people. They can go out there and say whatever they want, right? Because at the end of the day, they go home to $100,000 plus salary. $100,000 plus. So I get why, when Jerry Mcafee holds vigils for, children from who died from gun violence, and he's got, wearing a Never Broke Again shirt again. I understand why. And what's crazy is people didn't even understand. He wore that shirt, and I was like, wow, that's a slap in the motherfucking face. Because it went over people's heads. Because these babies that die, he profits, right? Crime pays. Regardless, whatever side you sit on it pays. Because if you under the guise of actually fighting it, it's paid very well. But the bad guys, the reason why crime pays. And we don't understand that. Because if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make sense.
I'm going to do a really easy example on that. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just say I owned a property on Main Street in town XYZ, right? And I've been fighting with the city to get, I don't know, a permit for 3 years, and the judge shuts it down. I don't know. I may have bribed city officials before and gone to Leavenworth, called it a 5-star hotel stay. And then all of a sudden, an issue goes down in part of my criminal enterprise. I do a little bit of forgery here and there, some fake goods. a little bit of messing with the cartel, you know, maybe a little bit of money laundering and drugs there. And I have this at this place. I have two people that work there security, a police officer by the name, I don't know, Derek Chauvin, and then a guy by the name of George Floyd that works security there together. If one was going to get arrested and possibly tell them where he got the counterfeit money that I gave him, might be a good thing for that just to go away, right? Well, Sabri owns George Floyd Square. He owns El Nuevo Rodeo. He Cup Foods had gotten in trouble before for forging NFL gear. Okay, so you go down the list, and then you have the $900,000 of counterfeit ones that was found at the border up north. Sabri and Ellison went to the CIA front, Misa at the U. And Omar, I'd be guessing, probably did when she was at the U too, right?
It's crazy as hell that you just bring up Sabari, right? No, because literally, I want people to understand how corrupt Minneapolis is that literally a businessman arrested for trying to bribe a council member, Brian Herron, who is now a pastor in North Minneapolis, right? Sabari, the owner of Cup Foods, where George Floyd went.
Yeah, and there's other ties in there too. But yeah, he funds Hamas, right? But then after George Floyd, we gave him like millions and millions of dollars, and then insurance money on top of that. Approved his stuff for Carmel Mall. Walls was meeting with him. Everybody loved the Hamas guy. He also runs the ballot harvesting for the Somalis. Dean Zimmerman went to jail for trying to bribe the city council to get the Somalis out from underneath his thumb, where they could actually own their own property to have their businesses instead of having to be underneath him. And Dean Zimmerman went to prison for bribing the city to help them. Oh, sorry. I just think that's classic. But anyway, yeah. So Sabri's daughter, Carmel, she's the one that got nailed with the Hamas stuff. So when people say Omar has ties to Hamas. So out of Minnesota, we have the kosher Nostra Sabes Luger connection, right? And with Ellison and all those guys. And then we got the Hamas connection. We're funding both. It's a CIA op out of Minnesota, dude. That's helping fund it. So I'm sorry, I don't want to see anybody die. I don't think that the Palestinians should die, and I don't think October 7th should have happened. They obviously stood down, but I mean, if they got plenty of money right before that from, I don't know, Minnesota money laundering, maybe we shouldn't do that. Just saying.
Right. So I wanted to play one more video of, oh damn, how do I get back to that?
And on Twitter, yeah, we've been calling it out. Okay, we have all the information that we put out there. We'll continue to put it out, and I'm not scared. Okay, yeah, I'm not.
I'm not either. So, no, I'm definitely not. These people don't scare me. That's the one thing. So I wanted to play this video real quick. I gotta add in.
He's breaking. If he, that is a gender issue.
So this is Champion last night, yesterday, whatever. Speaking about Miss Senator Mitchell.
Look at line 26. Line 26. I don't know if he's breaking. If he, that is a gender issue. If he's breaking out the back window or what? Then the question was, did you get a good look at him? No, it was completely dark. And then did you go to line 32? It says I tripped over him. I tripped over him. He was on the floor. And it keeps talking about a male. So if I'm in court, the first thing I'm going to is the fact that you're trying to say this, and we're talking about a male. Now, I can keep going because it keeps giving the male dominant notion, not anything else. All I'm saying to you is that's why you go through a process so this information can be tested, because even in the midst of someone being startled, what they say is very important. So if they say he, and if you want me to keep going through there, I can, but I'm not going to do that, because all I'm trying to say is, in this context of a ethics complaint, it is directly linked and tied to this criminal issue. Yes, our rules say it doesn't have to be a criminal thing. We just heard Gruenhagen. And we just heard him because guess what? There was no criminal case alleged against him, because it doesn't have to be. But the moment you connect it to a criminal case, now you're saying, oh, okay, this is what you're using as the linkage to say the person's standard are below our standards as senators is because of that. That's all I'm saying. Go to your motion, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I first of all, I'm just reading from the 911 transcript.
Oh, hold it. I messed up something too.
Oh, okay. I'd like to continue.
Go ahead with your 911.
Okay, so I'm just reading off the 911 transcript.
And so was I.
And my guess is, I don't know this for sure, I've never met Carol Mitchell, but I am guessing, Mr. Chair, that Carol Mitchell did not expect her stepdaughter to break into her home. And that's probably why in the 911 transcript, she is saying he, because she didn't expect her to break into her home. But yet, Senator Mitchell was the one that was found in the basement and arrested. And we concluded, Mr. Ringstrom helped us conclude that Senator Mitchell was in fact arrested. She was found in the basement by police. So if they're not willing to answer any questions, we can only conclude based on the information that we have in front of us. And if there's a 911 transcript saying that someone broke in, yes, it says he, because she didn't expect her stepdaughter to break into her house, Mr. Chair.
First of all,
so of course, if someone breaks in, and let's go from the beginning. 911 call. Someone breaks into my house. Let's go to the end. Senator Mitchell is found in the basement and arrested.
Senator Miller, we don't need to go from the beginning. You are making my point even as you speak, even when people nod their head, because you don't know. And that's why you test information.
You know, I want to stop it and speak about something for a minute, right? Because literally black men have been convicted for far fucking less, right? Who are actually innocent. This lady went in there and admitted to doing something wrong. And that's what bothers me about Negroes like this, right? These coon ass niggas. And I'm talking about Bobby. And I'm talking about anybody that's fucking sticking up for Nicole Mitchell for the simple fact that the broad admitted to doing something wrong. How can you stick up for a person doing something and they admit to doing something wrong?
Well, Bobby Joe, the reason that him and his buddies couldn't say anything on the Marvin case, I don't know, it's because they helped railroad Marvin in there and eyewitness stuff through for Klobuchar to get elected, and that's how they get their recognition, and that's how they get their money, is by funneling votes to the DFL, like they always have. I mean,
what shit is this? Sick, man. It's like, you know, it's the same thing with the Republicans with Lundgren, right? How you have that all that support that they had up there for him, and it's like, how can you as a politician? Why is everything turning so political? Why is our judicial system so political? You know what I'm saying? It really shit. Even religion now is so political. That's
oh, definitely.
People, don't pray for me because I don't know who the fuck you praying to.
Well, and on the Londrigan thing, like I've had this discussion with people that I was in class with, because I went to school for law enforcement. I'm gonna be a PI working for the defense, actually, just as a hobby. But I got encouraged to go back and get my degree, so I did.
Right.
But the kids I was in school with, one of them got didn't like what's her name, Mary, right? So anything he was just going off about, I'm like, well, hey, it's gonna fall where it's gonna fall with the jury. And here's the thing: is like,
right.
The general order sets the bounds of discretion, just like we learned in class. Your policies within your department sets the bounds of discretion. They were outside of that very clearly.
Right.
So it's up to the jury on how far outside the bounds they are. I'm not the jury. It all depends on who they get on the jury. You could get a good jury or a bad jury. And then it's only like what your lawyer decides to use. Because if your lawyer doesn't use stuff that could clear you or accidentally missays something, depends on what the actor is that you have up there. It doesn't depend on the fucking facts. And we all know it. We got taught that. It's just about trying to trip somebody up and say the wrong thing. And they get mad because defense people do it to the cops. Well, the cops do it to the defense all the time. It's just, you know what I mean? That's the way the system works. It's not about facts.
Nope. That's definitely that. You know what's crazy is that's definitely one thing that has been an eye opener. I mean, I always thought the justice system was kind of wrong, but I really didn't understand it until I learned it. And I'm not saying that I know everything about law, but I know the statutes, and I'm starting to understand the wording, and it really bugs me of how they can use certain laws and statutes in their favor, and yet those don't work for us. That's what, like,
it goes even basic than that. Like, we get taught about trauma, right? So like when you're in a traumatic situation, your brain will not focus on certain things and your memory will be a little bit off. That's what we got taught as an officer going into a situation and stuff like that, which is known, right? It's known that you're not going to be able to observe 100% of the stuff in a traumatic situation.
Right.
However, they don't extend that to the person being suspected or whatever, or accused, and their story is supposed to line out 100%. Well, no, you can't give the benefit of the doubt to one person and not the other. You know, if that's the way the brain works in a traumatic situation, they're not going to remember everything.
No, they're not.
You know,
no,
you
they're
can't
not.
pick and choose on the science.
No, but they do. So I'm gonna get in. We got about a couple more minutes left of this video.
Mr. Chair, I do know because Senator Mitchell was arrested and she was found in the basement of her stepmother's home.
But was she found next to her stepmother?
She was found in the basement.
Hold on. But was she found at? But was she found at the bed of her stepmother? Because you said that the stepmother said that the person was at her bedside.
Mr. Chair.
That's all I'm saying.
Whether or not she was laying down by her stepmother's bed, we don't know because they would not answer that question. I'm saying. But what we do know is that Senator Mitchell was found inside the home of her stepmother. We know that. Based on the 911 transcript, it says someone broke into my house. Yes, it says he. Because again, I'm sure Miss Mitchell did not ever expect her stepdaughter to break into her house. Have you talked to Miss Mitchell? I have not.
See, but that's my point. That
Mr. Chair, we don't need to.
Oh, of course you do.
Rule 56.1 said members shall adhere to the highest standard of ethical conduct as embodied in the Minnesota Constitution, state law, and these rules. We don't have to wait to determine whether or not a member of our body is found guilty or not guilty. We're not judge and jury. We don't have to wait for that.
You have, all I'm saying from my perspective is that you're making a gigantic leap, and you're making a gigantic leap because you're trying to get to a conclusion. All I'm saying is that it is the only responsible thing to do. From my vantage point, is to test all the evidence and the information, because something can look a certain way and not be it. That's all I'm saying. I'm not suggesting who did what. I wasn't there. I'm not even assuming that. But what I have been told is that I need to get to our 5 minutes.
Hold on one second, Mr. Chair. I just want to be very clear about one thing. Yeah. I am not assuming that Senator Mitchell was arrested on April 22nd, 2024.
But you're assuming the facts and circumstances around it. That's what you're assuming. Because you even said, I'm assuming that Miss Mitchell did not believe. You're not
that assuming, I did assume.
But you've been doing that a lot because you're assuming things that you don't know, because we've never talked to her.
Mr. Chair, I believe I used the word assuming one time today. If I'm incorrect, I stand corrected. Yes, you are correct. I assume that Senator Mitchell's stepmother did not expect Senator Mitchell to break into her house. You are correct about that. I am not assuming that Senator Mitchell was arrested. Mr. Ringstrom helped us conclude that yes, she was arrested on April 22nd, 2024. Senator Mitchell was arrested at her stepmother's home in the basement. There's no assumption there.
But would you
That
agree?
is what happened.
But would you agree? But would you agree that the facts surrounding everything that actually happened on that day, we did not, nor did anyone whose information is contained in the exhibit, were there? Excuse me. The police wasn't there until someone called, right? Oh, okay. So, but what I do know is that I didn't close this out in the way that we're supposed to. They've been asking questions. Now we've asked.
Yeah, you know what really trips me out about all of this is he don't even fight for our community like that, but yet he go up there and will fight for a white woman. You won't fight to end gun violence. You won't fight to empower and to better our communities. You want me to share your screen?
That's up to you. If people want to know how, this is how.
Oh no, go ahead.
So if you don't know about the Boule Society, it's part of the Divine Nine, the Black Greek letter organizations that were all founded by white commies. Literally, they founded it and then turned it into the Black Greek letter organizations. So they were founded in 1904 by Dr. Henry McKee Minton and 5 of his colleagues. And their thing was they were going to choose who's going to be the leader within the black communities, right? And basically, they were secret, like the Skull and Bones, before the 1990s and 2000s, but then they became public. And it's the top like 10% of them that they choose to be Boule or council chiefs, advisors to the king in Greek. So, like, these people are chosen to represent you guys. And Steve Coakley. So Steve Coakley, I've shared some of his videos with you. Go look up his videos, dude. He goes through the Boule in depth and how they've also been in control of the community on top of the rap and everything else. And you go down that list with that side of it. But their goals probably don't meet up with, I don't know, regular society's goals for you guys. Because at the founding of the NAACP, W.E.B. Du Bois had a guy by the name of France Boas. Let me see if I can find his speech real quick. It gets real interesting because, yeah,
Thank
he
you
basically.
for going into more context too with it. I appreciate that. Because I don't think people fully understand of, like, you know, the NAACP was, I mean, the same thing with these nonprofits. You know, you look at their mission statements and that they're wonderful things. You know what I'm saying? I mean, but on paper they look great. But when it comes to actually being and making a difference, those have long passed. A long time ago. It's not about, the game isn't about change anymore. It's about filling their pockets. It's about going on vacations. It's about who can get the largest grants. Because how do we have billions of dollars hitting the streets but we don't have no change?
Oh, definitely.
That's one thing that I think about all the time. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to even our school districts, right? How they're You see, all I see lately is school districts talking about budget deficits for next year and how they're going to have to cut this and they're going to have to cut that. But yet we're told that education is fully funded. So where's the disconnect? It's in the wording. That's the one crazy part is the state's taking care of their part. It's cities and counties aren't.
Oh, definitely. I'm trying to find the exact quote. Basically, he said that the problem is that the black people need an injection of white blood and need to be whitened up in order to be accepted in society. That's what he said at the founding of the NAACP. So,
and I mean, a lot of people don't even understand, the NAACP's connection to Minnesota and with Emmett Till, and it's all because of one person, Mr. Roy Wilkins.
Yeah, you go back and look at him too, and it gets interesting. Especially the groups that he was a part of. It's just like the Skull and Bones, how they're not going to really tell you what they're going to do ahead of time, right? They're going to keep it secret. And the whole Agenda 21, stuff like that is true as well. So people need to realize that what we need to get back to is local communities, right? And local control. All power not ceded to the state by your local community or county needs to be reserved for that county. So that way you guys can make decisions locally, whether it be about schooling, right? What you're going to be teaching in the school. So that way, if people locally don't want the liberalization of their school or the teaching of certain parts of history that aren't necessarily true, they can choose what their people learn, But then if that system fails, you're not having the entire state fail. It's the same thing with states' rights, and that's the way it was supposed to be set up. But instead, what we have is a state that runs, and we're fighting over who's in control of the state. So we're not fighting that they're overreaching their bounds. We're fighting for who's in control of the helm, of the wheel, of the corruption of the state. I mean, who are you going to vote for? You got Anton Larazzo and the GOP, or you got the money laundering and the cocaine? I mean, like, whatever it may be. I mean, come on here. It's just, there's a way to do it.
Something that what we were just talking about, and I want people to understand that he was convicted, and that for bribery to Brian Herron. I want people to understand this. And Leavenworth was a 5-star hotel.
Yeah, that was in the Petters trial. Yeah, that he said that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this shit's crazy. Yeah. His daughter got caught funding Hamas. He was in trouble at the youth for money missing, bribed the city council. But that was nothing with his permit denied even by a judge in 2019. George Floyd Square was a blessing. And people don't even understand his connections to Mayor Frey either.
Oh, no, they don't. Okay, so now it's legal to... you realize what happened between 2001 and now, right? Citizens United?
No.
Yeah, Citizens United. So now they can just create up a PAC and just funnel the money through the PAC and just give it to whatever politician they want and buy them off that way. It's legal. It's 100% legal.
And that's what I'm saying. Of like, how are we supposed to actually get change when there's so many loopholes?
Run local candidates that you raise up locally that don't need that foreign money. If they're talking about the local issues and they actually get out there and meet people, you have to know people if you want them to vote for you. You have to know what your constituents are, who they are. You can't just go out there for 2 weeks in an election season and be like, I know you guys. Sorry, I get mad at politicians.
No, you're good. No, you're good. So I wanted to, just for a couple minutes, talk about Nicole Mitchell and her charges. And this is her words. I know I did something bad. I know. Oh, whoop, I gotta share. Whoops. Right there. I know I did something bad. So she knows she did something bad, and then for the simple fact that you have Senator Bobby Champion, who is the uh, House Speaker, or not House Speaker, Senate Democratic Speaker. Um, yeah, 445. Now she lives in Woodbury, responding to a house in Detroit Lakes at 445, and Mitchell was located in the basement, dressed in all black, with a flashlight covered in a black sock nearby.
I'm not very good at this.
No, I'm not what a good at what? Oh yeah, right.
Her.
Yeah, right. Her. Right. Senator Mitchell told police she had just gotten into the house and added, "Clearly, I'm not good at this." Officers searched a black backpack that was stuck in a window and recovered 2 laptops, a cell phone, a driver's license, Senate identification, miscellaneous Tupperware. I wonder if that's where the white powder came in, according to the complaint. While speaking with investigators, Senator Mitchell claimed she entered the house to get items that belonged to her late father. Mitchell claimed the woman, identified as a non-blood relative, had stopped contacting her and refused to give her the items, such as pictures, a flannel shirt, ashes, and other sentimental items. I was just trying to get a couple of things of my dad's because you wouldn't talk to me anymore, allegedly said at the time of the arrest. However, charges said one of the laptops found in the backpack belonged to the woman, who told investigators she did not give it to Mitchell, but the senator said otherwise. Senator Mitchell allegedly admitted to leaving Woodbury around 1 a.m. and driving to Becker County, where she entered the house through the window. She was charged with first-degree burglary and is scheduled to appear in court Thursday morning. That's what's crazy. And the way that they've played this whole scenario when it came to this woman has really saddened me. That especially when you have the way that they've came out and have defended her. And it's like, where do we draw the line of right and wrong? Yes, she does deserve due process, but she literally admitted to doing something bad, to doing something wrong.
Pull up the statute real quick if you want. I mean, burglary is real simple, right? You have a breaking and an entering. Okay. She admits to breaking and entering. She broke the threshold of that window and entered, right? It's a dwelling. So the dwelling is a higher, it aggravates it. If it was a non-dwelling, it'd be different. If it wasn't somebody occupying the home at the time, if it's an occupied home, it also aggravates it. Okay. To commit a felony. So doesn't matter if she admits that her intent was to take things without permission, that then qualifies for that. And I do feel a little bit bad as far as, like, I know in my family people get nuts when it comes to funerals and people's possessions and that. But at the same time, there's a way to handle it. And she should have decent discretion, being that, I don't know, she was a commanding officer. I guess she gave up that position when she became a senator, but she was a commanding officer having to deal out non-judicial punishment. If she was still doing that, that'd be an issue, because you can't have, I mean, somebody of that rank making decisions for junior troops if they can't control themselves. And so if she was able to make executive level decisions for however long, you know that there's more to the story of what happened. It's not just somebody off the street that flipped out.
No, and that's what I've said the whole time, that I do definitely believe that there's more to the story. Because we're definitely, and at the end of the day, I really don't, because there was, the stepmother said that she don't know why she brought up the ashes when she was given ashes of her father. So there was just a lot for me, but this is what
the alibi also. Sorry, the alibi that the mom has Alzheimer's. So you're saying that you're going to sneak in the basement of a house, them not knowing you're there, with somebody that may or may not know who you are? That sounds pretty risky. Like, you might you might get shot in the face if they don't know who you are, right? So I'm just saying, if they're having Alzheimer's, you wouldn't do it.
Right. And that's like the whole part of like I didn't understand either, is because there was just a lot that just that none of the story to me fucking made sense. I'm gonna be 100% honest, and the fact that you have senators speaking up and being like, oh, you know, due process and all this shit. Where was my due process? I thought it was innocent till proven guilty, but this lady literally admitted. And I've seen people who are still sitting behind bars and who have proclaimed their innocence can prove that they're innocent yet and still sitting behind bars. So why don't we have that type of energy for them type of people?
If you wanted to borrow my computer and you just came in and took it without permission, and somebody was home, that's breaking and entering a home and taking without permission. That's with intent to deprive or whatever. That's the definition, right?
Yeah. So can you guys see the screen? Yep. Okay. I just wanted to see where it was at. So if you see right here, this is her charge: burglary in the first degree. Whoever enters a building without consent and with intent to commit a crime. She admitted to both of them. She admitted to she didn't have consent, and she was in there stealing. Well, that's, I guess, if you want to call allegedly, and we can leave that up for debate, I guess. But enters a building without consent and commits a crime while in the building, either directly or as an accomplice, commits burglary in the first degree, and may be sentenced to imprisonment for not more than 20 years or to payment of fine of no more than 35,000. I didn't. You know what's crazy though is I never have seen what she was actually, if it was A, B, or C. Do you know if that ever came out?
I'm not sure. You can definitely go look it up. It's public record, and everybody has it all over Facebook. I'd be guessing it'd be subdivision 1A because it was a occupied dwelling.
See, that's what I thought too. I was wondering when it came down to it, what, were they going to use?
That's how they differentiate between like a business, right, and a home, because you're supposed to be more secure in your home. There's more fear of people getting burglarized at home, so then they went ahead and aggravated that to a different type of standard.
Right. Yeah, I think they would, because I mean, if they do B, that is what I believe. Well, I guess if they wanted to consider a flashlight a dangerous weapon, to some people, I guess they've considered cell phones a dangerous weapon. So, I guess it all depends on what you see as a dangerous weapon.
And so this will sound very terrible. If somebody waits for somebody to leave for work and burglarizes their house, it's a tiny bit less, not too much, but it's a little bit less severe than if they were home and it was at night and they were home. And it sounds terrible, but that people being home causes people to be more fearful. There's an added level of whatever there. And so that's their justification behind the legislation.
What tripped me out about the whole thing is, I don't even know what to say anymore.
And a crime is a misdemeanor, so all it takes is a misdemeanor inside the home, and boom.
Right. It just, this shit is. I will say this: Minnesota is beyond fucked up. Because this shit's insane to me, of the way that we can decipher what accountability looks like, what justice looks like.
When what they allowed her to do is they allowed her to vote on a bill about defending yourself against burglars.
Right.
So against the same thing that she's alleged. So if I got a DUI, right, that's not a big deal as a senator. But if I'm voting the next day on a DUI bill, I probably would recuse myself. Just saying, I'm not going to touch that one.
Right. Well, and I know for me, you know, I know that really was the icing on the cake. But I know that there's other bills that they need to get through, and the session is about to end. You know, May 22nd. All right, no, is it? I think it is the 22nd or the 20th.
If they asked her to abstain from voting, right?
Right.
Till her charges are cleared, that would be I think, a reasonable thing, because you're not saying, hey, your rights are totally gone, but at the same time, you're saying, hey, we're gonna see if we trust you before we allow you to do it, because now there's serious questions about your ethics and your decision making.
Well, the crazy part for me is, you know, and I go back to John Thompson. You know what I'm saying? Of like the stuff that they were bringing up about him wasn't anything that was pending. It wasn't, you know, it was all things that he had been convicted. Maybe some of it was allegedly, and maybe there had been charges, and then, you know, were dismissed because there wasn't evidence, or, you know, or whatever. But he had already paid his debt to society, and the perp walk that they did this man, the way they demonized him in mainstream media, and not just one side. It wasn't just the Republicans. It was people that were supposed to be standing with him. There's some people that are supposed to believe in second chances. And the way that they crucified that man, you know, Walls, Ellison, but yet won't come out and do the same thing to Mitchell.
Well, the white liberal women can never be wrong, just like the GOP and Walter Hudson can never be wrong. So it's all good. I mean, they're two sides of the same coin. You know, they'll never admit their mistakes, and that's been a problem since Norm Coleman took over the Republican Party and made it into the semi-Democrat Party back when Jesse Ventura got elected. Man, Norm Coleman was a switch over from the Dems, and nobody wanted him, which is how Jesse Ventura got elected. So I mean, we can do it again. Number one,
we can.
And then number two is we gotta just buckle down and realize that both sides are being played. I mean, Pawlenty was just as bad. I mean, with his favors, if you look back to what's her face, Gildea. I mean, Chief Justice Gildea was literally, her husband was the leading lobbyist for the GOP, starting to get national recognition, and that's how she got in. Well, what did she do while she was in office? She was just as corrupt as the federal guys, because she got money off of the pipeline deal when she ruled. What her dad's estate was getting money, and she was in charge of her dad's estate when she did the ruling that they didn't need to do the environmental assessment right before they screwed up all the aquifers up there. So first of all, the environmental assessment was needed. Second of all, she made bank off it, and they let her rule on it. That's the type of gang. She's a GOP. Come on, dude. We have that same type of gang on the GOP side that do the exact same thing.
Well, man, I appreciate you coming on. If there's anything you want to say to end the day, you know.
I do have one last thing. I will drop down below in the comments. Whiting for Senate, Minnesota. She is a Libertarian Party candidate running against Amy Klobuchar. Anyone but Amy in 2024. She needs 2,000 signatures to get on the ballot. So if anybody can help get her signatures, please do. You don't even have to vote for her in the main. She just needs access to the ballot so people can vote for her. But choose your candidates wisely. There are some third-party candidates like RFK Jr. that I'm going to stay away from. Anybody that's supporting other countries over our own, we need to take care of our own first. But let's do it. Let's get back to local and get back to taking care of ourselves.
I 100% agree with that, man. Thank you, Robert, so much for coming on today. Always such a blessing to have conversation and to learn the in and outs, you know, of what's going on with, regardless if it's legislation, regardless if it's things that are going on in our community that we need to be informed about. And I'm glad that, you know, there's not a lot of people out there that have the patience or want to explain the in and outs of our system and how it works. So thank you so much. And today, man, I appreciate everybody, coming in today. Rev, thank you for, always asking questions. All I ask, man, is let's start calling these people out. Let's start drawing the line of what is right and what is wrong, what is good and what is evil. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not stopping. I'm not, Operation Hug the Block is coming up, and I will. I'm gonna speak to Marcus this weekend, and I'm gonna ask him what days work for him to come on, so he can explain what Operation Hug the Block is, what is what our agenda is, what is our ultimate goal with Operation Hug the Block, because I don't think people fully understand what Operation Hug the Block entails. Because it's about education, it's about understanding and not just vote, getting out and making your vote count, making your voice count, and understanding that there is resources there. There's resources. It's just that our community leaders gatekeep it, right? They hold it, they handcuff it, or they use it fraudulently. Because how do we have so many homeless people in Minneapolis, in Chicago, New York, LA? That's all you see. And it's not just migrants. It's not just people just coming across the border. No, we've been had that issue. So when are we going to start actually taking care of us? When are we going to start taking care of our veterans who have sacrificed, who went and fought selflessly for America? And we don't even treat them. We'll treat migrants better than them. I want people to understand that. So I want people to understand that we can fight back. Doesn't have to be violence, because we can outsmart them. This is chess, not checkers. And see, a lot of people are out here playing checkers when we should out here be playing chess, right? Because it's always about the next step ahead. What is their next move? And yet we can educate people on what the next move is. But if people can't comprehend it, or they don't understand it, and America isn't built for attention spans right now, as I've seen for at least a good over hour, though we've had over 30 people in here, and I appreciate that. I love that. Thank you so much today. And I hope people share it out, and because people do need to understand. And I'm not going to stop doing this. I've been talking about this shit for over 2 years now, and I'm glad that Deanna Winter and, and I'm only going to say Deanna because she really did trigger it. She did start it. I'm not going to say she started it, but she started it with mainstream media, because people in the streets, in the community, have been calling this out. And it's crazy that people will only pay attention to when Fox 9 or when the spokesman or I forget what paper, the Reformer, speak about it. But when you actually have people that are out here saying the same thing, but because who the messenger is, listen to the message. Stop judging the messenger. So, and I want to leave it off at that, man. And I hope everybody has a great weekend. Or I might do another episode before the weekend. What's today? Wednesday. So I might, I don't know yet. I do got other things I need to work on. It is my birthday weekend. I'll be 47. So with that being said, man, win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. Y'all have a great one.
Conservative.